Now we are going to start with the new topic of invariance of charge. So invariance means unchangedness. So as you know that the mass of a body is a function of its motion. So it's a function of its velocity. So you might have done it a little bit in your high school that mass of a particle increases when its velocity increases. So you might have done this formula that mass of a particle at a certain velocity is given by its rest mass, means its mass when its velocity is 0, divide by under root of 1 minus v square by c square. So you might had a look at this formula in your high school also. So we know that mass from this formula is a function of velocity. So it changes when the body is moving. So invariance means unchangedness. Invariance means unchangedness under motion. So here we are going to talk about invariance of charge. So the charge does not change when the body which carries that charge starts moving. So whatever is the charge on a body, when it moves, the total charge remains the same. So unlike the mass, as we know that the mass of a body increases when its velocity increases. So unlike mass, and also as you know, as you will study in special theory of relativity, that length of a body is also changing when there is a motion. So length of an object changes when an object moves. So this concept you will study in special theory of relativity. So length is also not invariant. So length of a body is also not invariant. But here we are talking about invariance of charge, means unchangedness under motion. So charge on a system, the total charge in a system is not changed by the motion of the charge carriers. So if the charge carriers start moving, the total charge remains the same, the net charge remains the same. So now what are the evidences to support this concept that total charge remains the same? So the first evidence is of hydrogen molecule. So in the case of hydrogen molecule, you already know that there is a nuclei. So nuclei is nothing but a proton. So there is one proton and there is another proton, and there are some electrons which are shared that revolve around these protons. So that is the hydrogen molecule. So this is a proton, this is a single proton, and this is also a single proton. And there are some electrons which are shared and they continuously move around these protons. So the protons in the hydrogen molecule are separated by about 7 into 10 power minus 11 meters. So these protons in a hydrogen molecule, they are separated by a distance about this much. And they revolve slowly. So these protons, they revolve slowly. Their velocity is less as compared to the velocity of the electrons which are moving around these protons. So the protons, they move with the less velocity as compared to the electrons which are revolving around these protons. As we know that electron and a proton, they have equal and opposite charge. So the charge on electron is minus 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs, and charge on a proton is plus 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. So if the charge is not invariant, so we have discussed that charge is invariant. So we are going to give you the evidence to support this concept. So if for time being we consider that charge is not invariant, means the charge changes under motion. So if the charge changes under motion, then hydrogen molecule can never be neutral. the hydrogen molecule can never be neutral if we say that charge changes under motion. The amount of charge changes under motion. It is a function of velocity. If we say the total charge is a function of velocity, it changes if the velocity increases or decreases of the charge carrier. So if we consider that case, then the hydrogen molecule can never be a neutral molecule. So how does this concept comes? So these protons, they are moving slowly, as we said. So these protons are revolving around each other slowly. They have less velocity as compared to the electrons, which are continuously revolving around these protons. So let's say this is one electron and this is the another electron. Now as we said that electron and proton, they have equal and opposite charge. But if we consider this hydrogen molecule, the electron is moving with the more velocity. It is moving faster as compared to the protons. So if the charge is dependent upon motion, if we consider for time being charge is dependent upon motion, it is dependent upon velocity, then charge on these electrons must be different as compared to the charge on these protons, because protons are moving with less velocity and electrons are moving faster as compared to the protons. So if the charge is a function of velocity, if the charge changes as velocity changes, then charge on these electrons must be different from those on the protons. So charge on these electrons must be different from the charge on these protons, because protons have less velocity and electrons have more velocity in the case of hydrogen molecule. So if we say that charge changes under motion, then this hydrogen molecule can never be neutral. But experimentally we have found that hydrogen molecule is a neutral molecule, which means that charge on any charge carrier is independent of its motion. So whatever is the charge on electron, the same will be the equal and opposite charge will be on the proton. Although the protons, they are moving slowly as compared to the electrons, but charge is invariant under motion, due to which the charge on electron is equal and opposite from that of the proton, due to which the whole hydrogen molecule is neutral. So experimentally also we have found that hydrogen molecule is a neutral molecule. So the protons in the hydrogen molecule, they are separated by about this much distance and they revolve slowly around each other. The electrons, they revolve in the orbits around the protons with high velocity. So the velocity of these electrons is high as compared to the protons. But hydrogen molecule is experimentally found to be neutral. So if we consider that the charge is dependent upon motion, then according to this change in velocities, according to this difference in the velocities of electrons and protons in the hydrogen molecule, the hydrogen molecule can never be neutral if we consider that charge is dependent upon motion. So the charge on the electrons will be something else and charge on the protons will be something else, because we are considering that charge is dependent upon motion. So electrons are moving faster as compared to protons, so there will be a difference in the charge. But experimentally it has been found that hydrogen molecule is completely neutral, which means that charge does not vary with motion. So charge is invariant under motion. So this is the first evidence. The second evidence is of the helium atom. So in the helium atom, what do we have? We have two protons and two neutrons. So they make up the nucleus of the helium atom, and there are two electrons which are revolving around the helium atom. Now if we consider the nucleus of the helium atom, so there are two protons. So let's say this is the proton and this is the proton, and these are the two neutrons of the helium atom, and there are two electrons which are continuously revolving around this nucleus. Now for the case of helium nucleus, if we talk about the helium nucleus, these protons and neutrons, they are tightly bound and they move with kinetic energy of the order of mega electron volts. So this is a very high energy, it is in mega electron volts. As we have as you might know that these electrons, they have energies in kilo electron volt, and the protons and neutrons inside the helium nucleus, they have energies of about few mega electron volt. So this is 10 power 6 electron volt. So they move with very high kinetic energy. So these protons and neutrons, they are continuously in motion. They are in motion and they move with very high kinetic energy. So they move with kinetic energy of the order of few mega electron volts. And the electrons, they are comparatively moving slower. So these electrons, they are comparatively moving slower as compared to these protons inside the nucleus. So if these electrons, they are moving slower, and if we consider that charge is dependent upon motion, so if we consider that these charges, the amount of charge on a body is dependent upon the motion of the body, then this helium atom can never be a neutral atom, because protons, they have very high kinetic energy as compared to the electrons. So electrons in this case, we can say that are moving slower as compared to the protons. So the charge on these protons must be different as compared to the charge on the electrons, if we consider the fact that charge is dependent upon motion. So if charge is dependent upon motion, then charge on these protons will be something else and charge on these electrons will be something else, because there is a difference in velocity. So there is a difference in the motion, in the nature of the motion. But experimentally it has been found that helium atom is a neutral atom, due to which we consider that charge is invariant under motion. So it does not change with the motion of the object, it is invariant under motion. So this is the second evidence of helium atom. So if the motion had any effect, if motion had any effect on the amount of charge, we could not have exact cancellation of nuclear and electronic charge. So if the charge is dependent upon motion, then the charge on the nucleus and the charge on the electrons, they will not exactly cancel each other, and hence helium atom should be a charged atom, it should not be neutral. So if the charges are dependent upon the motion, if they depend upon the velocity of the object, then the helium atom cannot be neutral, it must be charged. But experimentally it has been found that helium atom is a neutral atom. So this is the second evidence that charge is invariant under motion. So first is the example of hydrogen molecule and second one is that of helium atom. Now we are going to discuss about how the charge is measured in motion. So you are well aware of the Coulomb's law, and the Coulomb's law is applicable when charges are stationary. So Coulomb's law is strictly applicable when the charges are stationary, that is they are at rest. So how do we measure the charges when they are in motion? So the Gauss law that we had studied in the previous semester, so this Gauss law is applicable to both the conditions, that is when the charge is moving and also for the stationary charges. So Gauss law is applicable to both the cases. So let's say if you have one frame of reference. So first frame of reference is denoted by summation. So this is the frame of reference which is at rest with respect to the laboratory frame. So we are in the laboratory frame, and this frame which I have drawn, this frame is at rest with respect to the laboratory frame. And there is another frame of reference, this summation prime. So this is the another frame of reference which is moving with velocity v with respect to the first frame of reference, and it moves along a particular direction. So let's say it is moving along the y-axis. So this is the y-axis. The summation prime frame, this primed frame of reference is moving with velocity v with respect to the first frame. So this frame has zero velocity with respect to us. And this frame, summation prime frame, this moves with v velocity with respect to the laboratory frame. So we can say that this is the laboratory frame. And I have drawn certain number of charges. So let's say this is Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So there are number of charges which are present. Now if we are present over here, so if you are present over here and you are looking at these charges, so what will be the amount of charge that you will calculate when you are present in this frame of reference? So this is the unprimed frame of reference. So we call it as unprimed frame, and this is the primed frame. So this has a prime over here. So this is the primed frame of reference, and this we can call as unprimed frame of reference. So in this summation frame, in this frame if you are present, then if you look at these charges, so these charges are stationary. Let's suppose these charges, they are at rest with respect to you when you are in this unprimed frame of reference. So now if you are standing over here in this frame, so to calculate the amount of charge according to Gauss law, we must draw a Gaussian surface. An imaginary Gaussian surface must be drawn. So let's say you draw some Gaussian surface like this. So you have drawn a Gaussian surface around all these charges, and you are present in this summation frame. In this unprimed frame of reference you are present, and in this frame you have drawn this Gaussian surface around these charges. So what will be the amount of charge when you will calculate in this frame? So according to Gauss law, what is Gauss law? It states that the closed surface integration of E vector dot dA vector. So this closed surface integration, what is the surface? That is the Gaussian surface. So you do a closed surface integration over the Gaussian surface that you draw, and that must be equal to the charge which is enclosed inside the Gaussian surface divided by epsilon naught. So we are taking the case of a vacuum, so we have divided it by epsilon naught, which is the permittivity of free space. Now how do you calculate Q? So Q will be calculated, Q will be nothing but equal to epsilon naught times closed surface integration E vector dot dA vector. So in this summation frame, in this frame when you are present, first of all you will draw a Gaussian surface like this, and at every point on the Gaussian surface you will find the electric field. So you can find the electric field at every point. So there will be a general expression of electric field at all the points on the Gaussian surface, and electric field will be due to these charges. So there will be some electric field on every point on the Gaussian surface. So you will do its dot product with the dA vector, and then you will take its closed surface integration, and this surface integration is over this Gaussian surface which we have drawn, keeping in mind that we are present in this frame, in this summation frame of reference. So the amount of charge that you will calculate when you are present in this frame, that will be given by this expression. Now what will be the charge present? What will be the charge as you will measure it from summation prime frame? From this frame of reference, what will be the amount of charge? How do you calculate it? So if you are present, now you are present in this frame. So let's say first you are present in this frame. So this frame is at rest with respect to the laboratory. So this is the laboratory frame. This is the lab frame. Now when you are present in this frame, so what is this frame? This frame, this summation prime frame is moving with velocity v, which means that now you have started to move with velocity v with respect to the lab frame. So now you are continuously moving with velocity v. So you are moving with velocity v along this direction. Now what will be the charge that you will calculate? So this charge, these charges, they were at rest. These charges, they were at rest with respect to this summation frame. So we have already considered that these charges were at rest with respect to this summation frame. But when you will view this system, this same system, when you will view from this summation prime frame, so this summation prime frame is moving with velocity v in this direction. So as you are moving with velocity v along this direction, you will see that these charges are not stationary, but they are moving in the opposite direction. So this is the concept of the relative motion that you have studied in your high school also. So when you are moving with velocity v, according to you, the charges will be moving in the opposite direction with velocity minus v. So according to you, the charges will be moving. So when you are in this summation prime frame, according to you, the charges will be moving with velocity minus v vector. Now when you are in motion, so now you are in motion, but according to you, these charges are in motion. So you can take any option from here. So either you can consider that charges are moving, or you can consider that you yourself are moving in some direction. So if we consider that charges are moving in this direction, so as you are moving, according to you, these charges will appear to move in the opposite direction. So when these charges are in motion, so this Gaussian surface which we had drawn when we were present in this frame, the shape of this Gaussian surface will be different when viewed from this summation prime frame. So this Gaussian surface which I had drawn, this shape of the Gaussian surface is from this frame of reference. But when the surface starts moving in the opposite direction, if these charges are moving, means this imaginary surface is also moving. So now this surface is also in motion. This Gaussian surface is also in motion. So when this Gaussian surface is in motion, then according to you, the shape of the Gaussian surface will change. And this concept comes from length contraction that we will study in special theory of relativity. As I already told you in the previous page, that when an object is in motion, its length changes. When an object is in motion, its length changes, and the concept is that its length contracts. Its length decreases when an object is in motion. So this is the concept that comes in special theory of relativity. Whenever an object is in motion, its length decreases. So when you were in this frame, which is at rest with respect to lab frame, and these charges were also at rest with respect to the lab frame. So according to you, these charges were at rest, and this Gaussian surface you had drawn, that was of a particular shape. Now when you started moving with velocity v, or you can say in this summation prime frame of reference, from this frame of reference, now these charges are in motion. These charges are not at rest. Therefore, this Gaussian surface will also be in motion. Now if this Gaussian surface is in motion, its shape will change. Due to this length contraction, the size of the object will change. So size of this, the shape of this Gaussian surface will also change. So when you are in motion, the shape of the Gaussian surface will change. And what will be the charge? Let's say the charge that you calculate according to this Gauss law. The charge which you will calculate in this summation prime frame, let's say the total charge is given by Q prime. And that will be equal to epsilon naught, since we have vacuum over here. Now this is with respect to summation prime frame. So this equation is when you are present in summation prime frame, and this equation is when you are present in summation frame. So in this summation frame, in this frame of reference, the charges are at rest. And in this frame of reference, the charges are moving in the opposite direction. So shape of the Gaussian surface will also change. So the electric field will also change in motion. So that this concept we will do after few lectures, that electric field changes under motion. Electric field changes, length changes, the size of the object changes. Also this dA vector now will be represented by dA prime. So in primed frame of reference, every quantity is represented by prime. So here it is dA vector, and here we will write it as dA vector prime. Here it was E vector, now we will have E vector prime, because in primed frame, or you can say when we are in motion, the electric field changes, also the shape and size of the object also changes. So here we had E vector, here we will have E prime vector, here we had dA vector, here we will have dA vector prime, and the surface closed surface integration will be over the Gaussian surface which appears to us when we are moving. So this integration is over the Gaussian surface that appears to us when we are moving. As we said that this is the shape of the Gaussian surface which we had drawn when we were in this frame. But when we are in motion, due to length contraction concept, the shape of the Gaussian surface will also change. So this surface integration is over that Gaussian surface which appears to us when we are moving. So this is in summation prime frame. Now according to invariance of charge, as we discussed that charge is invariant under motion, so the charge in this whole system must remain same. So it must not change with motion, it must remain the same. So Q must be equal to Q prime. Therefore epsilon naught into surface integration of E vector dot product with dA vector, it must be equal to epsilon naught into surface integration of E vector prime dot product with dA vector prime. So this is how we calculate charges when the charge is at rest and when the charge is in motion, and this is the equation that we get according to invariance of charge. So Q must be equal to Q prime. Therefore from that concept we get this equation.